Turning now to the very latest in U.S. trade levies. Personal electronic imports from China appeared that they were going to get a reprieve from some U.S. tariffs over the weekend. But now that isn't so clear. Jim Spellman brings us up to date.
On Friday, it looked like electronics from China, including smartphones, computers, and flat-screen TVs, would be exempt from the highest U.S. import taxes, those 125% so-called reciprocal tariffs. There were sighs of relief from investors as well as consumers who worried a new iPhone would soon cost twice as much or more. But then on Sunday, President Trump said the exemption isn't actually an exemption, just a brief pause, and that electronics from China would soon be part of a separate batch of tariffs on semiconductors using national security as a justification.
Okay, let's weigh in a little bit deeper on the tariffs and the Trump administration. For that, we're joined by Denis Simon. He's a non-resident fellow at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. Good to see you, Denis. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. It's the morning here in Beijing.
Yeah. Okay, now the dollar's falling. Small businesses are suing Trump, alleging he doesn't have the power to push through these tariffs. Bring us up to date on what the international world is thinking, because this really does change not just day by day, but in many cases hour by hour.
Right. Well, you've hit the nail on the head. It's the uncertainty that the Trump actions have provoked that's really creating a lot of chaos in financial markets and also damaging the ability of small and medium enterprises to do some kind of strategic planning. They don't know whether the materials that they import, for example, from China or other countries, what the real cost is going to be at the end of the day. So when they put a product on the shelf, they don't know what they need to charge the consumer. And eventually that may come back to bite those companies because they're going to be caught in a squeeze. So right now, I think the big problem is not that they're tariffs. Of course, tariffs are damaging in many ways. The problem is that the continued switching back and forth and these changes make it very, very difficult, whether you're a big multinational company or a small company, to do the kind of forward planning that you need to do to help your business grow.
Indeed, and a pause or a hold on some tariffs, chiefly electronics and autos. But Trump also signaling more tariffs to come in pharmaceuticals and computer chips. The markets here in the U.S. and really globally held fast today. But what kind of concerns do you see moving forward? More of the same, this uncertainty, because that's one thing the markets simply don't like.
Right. So most investors, if they're seasoned investors, would have a diversified portfolio. They would move their money around depending on, where the stock market is in any part of the world. But right now, we're facing a situation of no safe harbor. In other words, investors are finding it difficult where to put their money. A lot of people are talking about putting their money into gold because they think that's the only safe place right now. And the only other one is in the mattress. So I think that this kind of chaos does not help investors, and particularly for retirees who are about to enter that stage in their life. They're having a difficult time knowing that what money is going to be available to them over the coming months and years ahead.
Yeah, indeed. Since this started, the market in the U.S. has dropped about 10%. Many concerned about going into a recession. Moving on, though, most of the world's rare earth materials are in China. These minerals are used in the manufacture, development of virtually everything modern, from military, aerospace, to everyday items. Now China has vowed to halt the export of these. What does that do to the United States?
Well, it puts the United States in a very, very difficult position. About 90% of all the critical rare earth materials actually comes from China. And those materials are used basically in four main sectors. One is aerospace, second is the defense industry, third is automotives, and fourth is electronics. So that that laptop computer you may be using, that involves the use, for example, of a variety of different magnets that come from these heavy earth materials. And right now, it would be difficult, almost near impossible for the United States within less than 5 years to come up with an alternative supply chain that would leave them less dependent on China. But you have to understand, this decision by the Chinese is done in the context of feeling pushed in a corner. And so it was not taken lightly in Beijing. It's a very serious step that the Chinese made, but it's only in response to, I'll use the word that they've used, the bullying or the blackmail that they see coming from the U.S. end.
Yeah, and picking up on that, we talked about President Xi's meetings this week with Asian leaders who are going to be hit hard by Trump's tariffs if they go through. Now, is he likely to find officials eager to hammer out trade agreements, President Xi? Because China is promoting what it says as being a responsible superpower.
Right. So this is a moment where China is pushing very hard on the concept of multilateralism. It's saying that these tariffs will not do anyone good, and that the countries of Southeast Asia, and he's visiting on this trip Cambodia, Malaysia, and his first stop was Vietnam. And he's trying to basically establish stable, ongoing relationships with each of these countries to prove to them that the United States can't be counted on as a reliable trade partner right now. And China, whether it's a Belt and Road country or whether it's big European countries and also these smaller Southeast Asian countries, China wants to show that it can be counted on because its policies are stable and its diplomacy is not out in left field somewhere. It's they're designed to form strategic partnerships with long-term benefit to both parties.
Dennis, we have about 30 seconds left. Tell me what you're looking for in the near future. How do we step back from the abyss?
Well, I think everyone wants to understand what's the strategy behind the invocation of these tariffs. They want to understand, if you look deep inside the Trump administration, is there a document or a plan or something that tells us where we're headed down the road? This is the big problem right now. Trump's advisors contradict one another about the intentions of the policy, about the purposes. We've seen Elon Musk come out against this. So I'm trying to see if the Trump administration will put together some kind of coherent statement that outlines over the next 6, 12, 18 months where we're going to be with these tariffs, because I think that would help settle the markets and also stabilize the trade patterns that had existed prior to the invocation of these tariffs.
Okay, Denis Simon, thank you so much, and we appreciate you getting up early for us in Beijing. Thanks.
Thank you very much.